My wife, now 38 and I, now 41, got married on May 5, 2015. She was the owner of a massage parlor before we got married. She would have to get up close and personal with male and female customers alike. I was surprised my wife had cameras in the massage rooms, but it was legal. As long as the cameras were visible. She said she felt better having everything recorded in case anyone tried to do anything weird or anyone trying to claim she touched them inappropriately. At the end of each night, she would store the video in an archive folder in case she ever needed to defend herself. I would help out in the business sometimes, but it was always up front and taking out the trash. She showed me how to move the camera recording to the archive folder, and I did it for a couple of nights. I was glad I could help her. So it was one less thing she had to do after I got used to doing it for a while. She had me stop. But that was far from the strangest thing she started doing. She started sleeping. With her phone under her pillow and definitely on silent. I never heard that thing make a sound ever again. I wondered how she knew when someone tried to reach her business, but she probably knew because she was always looking at her phone, unless she was giving a massage. She also tried to give me reasons why she didn't need me to work, or better yet, why I didn't want to work. I started to feel pretty hurt and actually asked her why she was pushing me away. She was really surprised. I even noticed her treating me differently. Maybe her judgment was cloudy due to a fair fog. This is when I really started wondering if something was going on. I showed up without telling her while she was in the massage rooms. I dismissed the receptionist, telling her I was there to relieve her lunch break. I opened up the archived file and scrolled through the dates. There were 2 dates within the past 3 weeks that weren't there. I scrolled back as far as the prior year, and the only 2 dates that were missing were within the past 3 weeks. So it was very unusual that any dates would be missing, and the fact that they were recent made me think I was catching on to something I wasn't sure what to do. So I actually called my wife's stepbrother. We were closer than people might think. We hung out together at least 4 nights a week, sometimes staying up until 3 in the morning filming ghost hunting videos. I confessed to him what was going on. And it was hard. I had to make him promise not to tell my wife and really honestly give me his best advice, and that was to leave her. He jumped to that decision awfully fast. I asked him why he thought that so easily. And he told me that my wife had cheated on every single man she ever dated. I said a curse word when I heard him tell me that he said he never told me because he thought every person deserves a chance to start over new. I really wish I would have asked him early on about his sister's past. Maybe he would have told me if I asked, but I wouldn't know now. So I decided to confront her about it to see what she had to say, but be prepared to divorce because something was definitely up. I waited until she was done working one day and we were almost done with dinner. She almost choked on her last bite. When I asked point blank if she was cheating on me, she immediately turned red and asked why. I thought that I told her it was because she deleted 2 security videos. She looked confused, but it was definitely acting. I knew my wife for 10 years at this point. I wasn't stupid. I asked her if I could see her phone, and that was not what she wanted to hear. She was in the middle of telling me she didn't have time to cheat. But that's not what I asked. I knew she was working while she cheated. Probably with the same customer. Both times. That's a close visit for any regular customer. I was trying not to give this information too fast, but I couldn't resist. So I told her I checked the financial logs too. This was a little more foreign to me. But I thought the number of customers she had on the mystery days didn't really match how much money she made. So one of the customers she had logged on those days was probably her AP. She did not like this conversation and how much thought I already put into this. I asked her again for her phone. She looked like she was going to throw up, and she actually did. I felt banned, but I also felt convinced I was right about the whole thing. If that was the case, she deserved to barf while she was doing that. I grabbed her phone out of her back pocket and found tons of texts to one. Sarah. I didn't know if that was a code name or what, but I took screenshots and sent them to myself before my wife stopped throwing up long enough to charge at me. She threw up on her phone while it was in my hands, and I ran outside to rinse my hands off with the hose. I told her I saw enough to know she cheated on me and I wouldn't stand for it. I grabbed my emergency departure bag and went to her stepbrother's house. I slept on the couch while I filed for divorce, hoping they would make her move. But the house was in her name. So I was the one that had to find a place to live since she was the breadwinner. I sued her for alimony because of her infidelity, and it was actually approved. I bought my own place even though it was a part of another house. It was still property I would own after I paid off the mortgage. So I was happy. My ex was not happy. She spent a ton of money on a lawyer, but it didn't make a difference. She got to keep the house. So I thought she should be happy once word got out about this. I'm not sure how it did. Her business lost a lot of customers. I didn't go around telling people, but karma took place anyway. The fact that she lost a lot of customers meant she did struggle to pay rent for a while. I heard she only dated AP a month before she was dumped because AP was scared she would do the same thing she did to me. To them, owning a massage parlor is a privilege and a duty. People are trusting you with their bodies, and it takes a lot for some people to even relax the fact that she did. This is very unsettling. Since then, I've managed to grow my ghost hunting YouTube channel and have a monthly income from that, along with a side job. I started with my best friend and ex's to brother. I have no idea how my ex is going to make do in life, but it doesn't really concern me. I hope this tale inspires people to remain loyal and respectable. Wow! Thank you for sharing this. Your story will certainly help people to realize that there is trust and responsibility on the owners of businesses and even to the average spouse. Just because someone doesn't own a business doesn't mean they aren't trusted to resist all forms of temptation. It doesn't matter what your profession is when someone decides to love their spouse and only their spouse, all forms of temptation are powerless. I believe your wife always had it in her head that she could please someone or be pleasured in her business without anyone finding out because she was in control. I'm so relieved you had your best friend to help you through this. And I'm glad you followed your instincts and thought through your actions. You did what any wise person would have done in this situation. I'm glad you are moving forward in your life. Now, let's get into today's second story. After my wife and I were married for 12 years, we finally hosted a Christmas party. It was the 10th year in our own home. And that time flew by. We were really involved in our Christian church. So we felt it was overdue to hold a Christmas celebration with our friends. My wife was very excited and got really dressed up for the night. She bought all kinds of alcohol, claiming that people drank in Bible times as well. I just rolled my eyes and let her do whatever she wanted. That was pretty much how our marriage survived so well. For so long, when people started arriving, she started music and brought out the food. The food and drink were so good. It really was a blissful night. Everyone was thanking us and giving us hugs, and we just felt really good. That was until I noticed my wife was missing. Then I didn't feel so good. Although she still probably did. I checked our spare room because it was the first instinct I felt to do. It was where we put all the coats there on top of the coats. One of the church leaders was having sex with my wife. I was drunk and could not believe what I was seeing. It was on top of everyone's coats. When I walked in, she screamed at her lover, claiming he was a complete moron for failing to lock the door. I immediately told her she was a terrible person for committing adultery. She was extremely angry. I couldn't believe how she had the nerve to be so angry, but must have been self-defense for being caught red-handed. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to hit her. I wanted to hit him even more, but I resisted and he pulled up his pants and ran away. I knew people at the party were going to see him come out and know what just happened. There was no way this could be kept a secret. I realized, like a scene coming apart, that my marriage would never be as it was 5 minutes ago. It was almost too much for me to take. My heart felt like it was going to explode, and I fell to my knees because I was so overwhelmed and dizzy. My wife escaped the room while I was like this, not stopping to see if I was okay. I blacked out. I woke up to the pastor of the church slapping my cheek and asking me what happened. I told him I found my wife with AP. He was appalled. He knew exactly what I was talking about because he saw them both come out at different times looking super spooked and guilty right away. He prayed with me, but I'm not sure what good it did. My wife was missing until the party was long over. She finally rang the doorbell several times at 2 a.m. because she didn't have her keys. I assume she was at a PS house for all that time. The pastor stayed over at my house for support and answered the door to tell her she made a huge irreversible mistake. She shoved her way inside and passed out on the couch, completely drunk. The pastor told me I could stay at his house while I filed for divorce. I graciously accepted. He had a kind wife and an adorable baby. I helped with the baby, hoping to have one of my own someday. I didn't let my wife sabotage my hopes for what I may find with someone someday during my stay. I babysat for the pastor and his wife, and they had a good time together. I was glad I could help and had time alone to figure out how to depend on myself for answers, not necessarily God or anyone else. It was hard and I did cry. Sometimes I felt like life wasn't ever going to be as good as it felt with my wife, but I proved myself wrong. I found an opportunity to do what I loved. After the divorce was final, my wife chose not to return to our church, and I believe she lost her faith in the consequences of her actions. She became homeless and couldn't depend on AP because he had trouble paying his bills after he was cut from the church staff. I moved to a different part of the countryside. It was easy for me to do it because I saved up money without my wife knowing. I don't recommend saving money behind your spouse's back, but maybe just keep it in your name only. I hope my story helps everyone to stay loyal to their spouse no matter what, or just divorce them before deciding to commit adultery. It causes pain and destruction, and do unto others as you would do unto yourselves. I am so sorry. Your wife had the nerve to sleep with a church member at a Christmas party. Everything she stood for went down the drain, and it's always hard to accept that anyone you love would have the nerve to do that. They've built trust with you all this time. But as soon as the opportunity approaches, they do the wrong thing. I wish no one would have to go through this, and everyone should learn that if they aren't happy with their spouse, there's usually a fixable underlying problem that could be resolved. If you fell in love in the first place, chances are there's still love and a way to choose commitment. If one finds it impossible to choose love or look past their partner's faults, one only needs to look at the faults of themselves. If there's a greater issue than this, perhaps honest communication, therapy, or divorce could be the answer. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.